So today I want to show you how to go over your pre-inspection checklist for the Dodge and trailer combo that we have here. First thing you want to note before even beginning the checklist is that the overall condition of the vehicle is upkept. If it doesn't look like the vehicle is kept up, then it also doesn't look like the vehicle's maintained, which is an important part of the inspection process if you were ever to get cited or inspected on the highway. So getting into the checklist, the first point of the checklist is the engine. We want to start the engine up. We want to make sure that there aren't any weird noises coming from the engines, any whines, squeals, leaks, knocking noises, hesitation, backfires, etc. So when you fire the engine, you're going to see a coil on the instrument panel, and I'll start this over so you can see the coil. It is the yellow coil that you see there. Once that turns off, the glow plugs are hot and the engine's ready to fire. This engine fires right up. Immediately I can tell that there's no hesitation. You're safe to touch the throttle to make sure to have good throttle response, and that there isn't any exhaust leaks coming from the engine compartment or under the truck. At this point, you're okay to turn the engine off and pull the key out. Next point of the checklist is your transmission. So as you're driving your truck, you want to make sure that there's no slips, that there's no hesitation in the transmission. If it is, that will be an out of service condition. You want to take your truck in to be serviced. What we're looking for at this point is underneath the vehicle. We can go ahead and check for leaks coming from the transmission. We can check for cracks at this point. And you can also check for leaks coming from the engine. Matter of fact, if we come to the side over here, we want to look underneath. I'm going to go ahead and take the phone from the cameraman here. And you can't actually see the transmission from the front. So at that point, you can check the front drive line and the engine for any leaks. The transmission is actually located here. So you want to check the bell housing. You want to check the pan for any leaks. That is the drain plug though, located in the center there. You want to make sure there's no leaks coming from the underside of there. If you do see water dripping at this area, that is from the air conditioning, and that is completely normal. If it looks like it's in an area that you haven't seen before or it's an area of concern, you can go ahead and trace that leak directly back up into the engine compartment. When you're in the engine compartment, you want to go ahead and check for any cracking in the plastic. You want to check for any disconnected connections here. You want to check your air conditioning lines, which are these nickel colored ones here, for any leaks coming from there. Typically there'll be green leakage coming from these lines here if they were to leak. You want to check your hoses for cracks, for splits, for separations. You want to check to make sure your fluid levels are at the proper level. You want to go ahead and check all of your fluid reservoirs to make sure they're at the proper level. Again, you want to check all of your hoses, all of your hard plastics, all of your connections. You can even pull the dipstick out and make sure that your oil is brown in color, not black in color, or even white in color. You also want to make sure that there's no bubbles in the oil or on the dipstick. If there are, that it's an out of service condition, it needs to be taken in to the mechanics. Now, if you're taking your vehicle in at regular service intervals, you mainly want to check for the color of the oil as well as the oil level. If it appears to be low, you want to make sure that there's no leaks coming from underneath the truck, and if it is low, take it in to have it serviced. Next point on the inspection checklist is the clutch. This is an automatic vehicle. There's no clutch in this vehicle, but if you have any manual vehicles, you want to check for any slipping, weird noises, squeals, that kind of thing. Leaks coming from the underside of the vehicle. Next point of the inspection is the steering. Now, you can check the steering if you're familiar with the checklist when the vehicle is fired before you turn it off. At this point, we'll go ahead and fire it back up. We want to turn the wheel. We want to check for play in the steering wheel. We also want to check for whining coming from the underside of the vehicle, from the engine compartment. We don't hear any of that here, so we're okay to proceed. Next point on the checklist is the horn. Simply honk the horn. If it works, you can move on. Next point is the wipers and washers. You not only want to check their function to make sure that they work, you also want to check the condition of them. So in this case, they obviously work, both of them work. Fluid comes out, okay? Now you also want to get close to the wiper blades themselves. You can go ahead and pull the wiper blade back away from the windshield, and you want to check for any cracks there, cracks here, okay? You also want to check as you are spraying the fluid against the windshield that it's wiping the fluid clean, okay? So we have the windshield wipers on here, it's spraying the fluid and it's wiping it clean. Okay, once that's done, we can go ahead and move on our checklist. Again, at any point, if anything seems out of the ordinary, make a note of it. This specific checklist here, there's a details of corrections listed right in the center to the right side. You want to go ahead and notate in that area. You also want to check it off as defective, or an out of service condition. While we're at this point of the vehicle, you also want to make sure that there's no trash inside the vehicle. You want to make sure that the inside of the vehicle is kept up. Those are all going to be indicators during an inspection, a highway inspection, that the maintenance isn't kept up on the truck. This goes back to the condition of the vehicle overall. We want to check the rear view mirror while we're at this point. Rear view mirror is present as we get closer. There's also no cracks in the rear view mirror. We can go ahead and check the side mirrors at this time. You want to make sure that there's no cracks in the side mirrors. You also want to not only check to make sure that they are not cracked, that they're in good condition, you also want to make sure that they're clean. You want to make sure that they're not dirty. You can be cited for dirty or foggy or even heavily water spotted mirrors, side mirrors and rear view mirror, okay? Next point on the checklist is your lights and reflectors. You want to go ahead and turn your headlights on and your flashers. We'll go ahead and do that now. We'll turn the lights on. We'll also turn the emergency flashers on. You're not only checking for functionality of the headlights and signals, you're also checking the condition of the glass, okay? You want to make sure that it's not chipped. You want to make sure that it's not cracked. You want to make sure there's nothing missing. So we're okay here. We're also okay here. Are they tight? Are they loose? There is rubber around the clear plastic here. You also want to make sure that that's in good condition. Oftentimes, if this cracks, water will get behind there. It'll cause these to fog up pretty bad. That'll be an out of service condition that needs to be repaired, okay? I'm going to go ahead and turn the key off. At this point, we want to check the foot brakes. That's the next item on the checklist here. Foot brakes, you want to check to make sure that there's no play in the pedal. You want to make sure that it feels firm. We can go ahead and climb in the truck, hit it with our foot, make sure that the pedal is firm. If it goes to the floor, that's an out of service condition. We want to make sure that you have a solid brake pedal, okay? At this point, you can also check the parking brake. Apply the parking brake. You want to feel a firm parking brake. You want to make sure it locks there at the bottom. This is the parking brake release, okay? We can go ahead and set the parking brake. And we want to release it, make sure that it's operational, okay? If it's not operational, that's an out of service condition, needs to be taken in, okay? The next point here, we want to check the trailer brake lines as it's listed on the checklist. Trailer brake lines are going to be located under the trailer in this situation. It may be different depending on the model of the trailer. But in this particular case, you notice that we've lifted the trailer up and we've secured it with this bar here. That's going to make sure that the trailer doesn't come back down on us. I have actually seen that happen. Okay, so as we look here, we want to make sure that the wiring to the trailer brakes here is in good condition, is in good shape. And as I can see here, I hope you can get a good picture there, that that everything is in order, everything's checks out okay. I'm going to go ahead and go to the other side and make sure that the lines are not frayed, that they're not cracked on this side of the trailer either. And you're looking visually at these lines, you're feeling them, and you're making sure that they are, go ahead and go back around this way. Want to make sure they're not frayed, that they're not split. and that they're all connected. Okay. The trailer electrical lines are the next point on the checklist here. You want to make sure that your connection is solid to the truck, that there's a flap that locks it in there. You don't want this coming undone down the highway. You also want to check the condition of the line itself, okay? You don't want it to drag on the floor or to be able to drag on the floor. You notice that the line there is not, it doesn't allow it to touch the floor. That's what you want. You also want to make sure it has a solid connection to the trailer and that the latch is also in place so that this doesn't come disconnected. Oftentimes you'll find here where the wire will come disconnected from the union where it connects into the trailer. You want to make sure that this isn't frayed, that there's no wire showing that the insulation is solid. Okay. Next point of the inspection here is the window glass. You want to make sure all of your glass, again, is not cracked, that there's no deposits, water deposits on there, that they aren't broken. Okay. That they're all present, as a matter of fact. You want to make sure that your windows, your side windows, actually has glass in them. Okay. These windows are clean. Okay. Next point of the inspection, that goes back to the exhaust. Are there any leaks? We listened for that earlier, but there's no harm in firing the truck back up just to double check. You always want to double check and triple check if there's any suspicion of anything that could be wrong with the truck. You definitely don't want this to become an issue during a highway inspection. Okay, we didn't hear any leaks there. You also want to check your exhaust. We'll go over to the other side of the truck here. You want to make sure your exhaust isn't loose, okay? Do not put your hand on the exhaust after or when you're checking the truck back in at the end of the day. Obviously it will be hot. We're okay to do so now because we haven't ran the truck yet. We want to make sure it's not loose. So we're checking here, it's not loose, that's nice and tight, okay? As we back up here, it's also nice and tight back here. You can visually inspect the rubber grommets that are on the underside of the truck here that actually hold the exhaust in place, okay? And those are located right there. That's a rubber grommet. It's not cracked. It doesn't show any wear in it, and it's in good condition, okay? Next point of the checklist, we are looking for, and we looked before, but we're looking again, for any leaks under the truck that may be of concern. Okay, so we're looking again for oil, for transmission fluid, anything out of the ordinary. We were running the windshield wipers, so there is some additional fluid on the driver's side of the truck now that wasn't there previously. That's completely normal. That's just the fluid running off the windshield down onto the ground there. Okay, coupling devices. This is a very important part of the inspection, especially when you're taking the trailer out. Coupling devices are located right here, and it's just as it sounds. It's what couples the truck to the trailer. There are numerous pieces and components to your coupling devices. In this case, we have the hitch, we have the ring. This is a ball and ring style. You want to make sure that you have a locking pin on the back of the hitch here. You want to make sure that the ring on your trailer slips tightly over the ball. You also want to make sure that the ring is round around the outside here. Typically these rings will wear on the underside where it comes in connection with the bottom of the hitch here. They'll wear on the underside. This particular trailer checks out okay. There's no wear that's of concern. Go ahead and close that up. Again, you want to make sure that this locking pin is in order. You definitely don't want this coming loose on the highway. Okay, that is a sure violation. So we'll go ahead and lock that in there. You don't only want to have a locking pin, you want to make sure it has the safety on it like this. I have seen bolts that are ran through here. That is not the proper fastener. You actually want something hardened and in this fashion with a lock on the outside here. Next thing that we're going to check is the bolts. You want to make sure the bolts are nice and tight. You can check those visually. Okay, you want to make sure that they are all present and driven in. You want to make sure that the bolts located here are a minimum grade 8 and they will be golden color with locking nuts and washers. Okay, if you have this plate here, You also want to make sure that your hitch goes into the receiver with a locking pin. This is in order here, so we're okay. One thing that you want to check while you are here is the breakaway cable. This is one of the most important parts of both your braking system and your coupling devices, okay? This is technically coupling devices, but since we're here, we can also check this line. What this is a safety assurance in case this, for some reason, ever comes disconnected from the truck on the highway. This line will pull a pin out of the trailer, okay? Ryan, can you get in close right here so we can look at what happens? We're gonna pull this pin out, and as soon as this happens, the truck will apply braking to the trailer, and it will keep the trailer tracking straight in the event that this trailer ever comes disconnected from the truck. That's a very, very important part of the truck and trailer combination and safety feature. How you check that is you want to start the vehicle after pulling the pin, and on this particular truck, it will let you know when you start the truck. And we are going to go ahead and put the vehicle in drive, and we're going to ease off the brakes. Notice it's in drive here. Also, it says check trailer brake wiring. Okay, you want to put the vehicle in drive, and you want to ease off the brake pedal, and the trailer brakes are applied at this point. Okay, notice my foot is off the brake. Notice the emergency brake is not on. The truck is still in drive, and I'm not moving anywhere. Okay, so we will go ahead and apply the brakes, put the vehicle back in park. We'll turn the truck off, and at this point we can reconnect the breakaway cable. Okay. It isn't a crisis if this comes undone. You want to just go ahead and put it back in the hole there. It does go in a certain way. Make sure it goes all the way back in. If it doesn't go all the way back in, the trailer brakes will still be applied. Right now, since the breakaway is hooked back up, the brakes are released. Okay. Next thing you want to check is your wheels and rims. So we'll start here at the front of the truck. There's two different types of wheels, of course. There are your straight drive wheels, which are located on the back and on the trailer. There's also your steering tires. I'm sorry, two different types of your tires. Your steering tires are obviously here in the front. Those are your steering tires. When you turn the wheel, they obviously turn. And then you have your straight tracking tires that are located at the back of the truck and on the trailer. You want to make sure that the steering tires have a minimum tread depth. The law is written in 30 seconds. It's 4 30 seconds, which translates to 1/8 of an inch. Okay. You also want to check to make sure that your straight drive tires are at 2 30 seconds, which is a 1/16 of an inch. Which the tires, both inner and outer tires, are in good shape on this particular vehicle. If they're not, it's definitely an out of service condition. You want to take that in. You want to get the tires replaced. Okay. At this point, you can also check the tires to make sure that there's no screws or nails in there. I do believe that all of us are guilty of that from time to time. It's just the nature of what we do. If there are, you want to get that replaced. You want to get it in. Okay. While we're here looking at the tires, you also want to inspect the wheels and the rims, okay? What we're looking for is excessive brake dust buildup, which obviously we don't have here. If you do, it makes it very difficult to further inspect the rim. What we're also looking for, besides brake dust buildup, we're looking for cracks, okay? The cracks are going to typically happen on the innermost part of the vehicle. Okay, so what we can do here is we can take off the wheel cover. Okay, this can come off by hand. You want to make sure that there's no cracks between your wheel fasteners or lug nuts. The proper name for these is wheel fasteners on these specific trucks. You want to make sure that they're all present, which they are here. You want to make sure there's no cracks here, no cracks from the holes in the rim where the wheel fasteners and attach. from here to these holes, and you also want to make sure there's no cracks on the outside here, okay? That's what we're looking for. So we'll go ahead and check the back as well. We want to check wheel fasteners on the front tires and the back tires. Again, those covers will pull off. There's no cracks on this rim. We did go ahead and take a look at this rim as well. You want to check all of your rims, okay? As you're scheduling regular maintenance on your trucks, they will rotate your tires, and you want to check them all. You want to go ahead and check them all after they've been rotated, okay? We'll go ahead and go to the trailer back here. You also want to check the same thing. Are all of your lug nuts or wheel fasteners present? They are in this particular case, both front axle and rear axle of the trailer. You want to check and make sure that there's no excessive brake buildup or brake dust buildup here, which there's not. You want to make sure there's no cracks. Cracks on the outside, cracks here, cracks from the wheel fasteners to the holes there. You also can check while you're at this point, make sure that there's no grease coming out of here, okay? You want to make sure there's no grease or buildup there. If there is, you need to take it to a mechanic. We don't expect everybody to know everything about these vehicles. If something seems out of place, take it into the to get serviced, okay? That's an out of service condition if there's any fluids or excessive buildup of any sort, okay? Besides brake dust, if there's brake dust, you just want to clean that off. Okay, so next thing you want to check is your tie downs. So you not only want to check the condition of your tie down straps, which we have here. We have it rolled up in this fashion because we want to throw it over the load without throwing the buckle. Okay, you never want to throw the buckle over the truck, but you do want to check the condition here. There's no excessive fraying on here. This strap is still yellow in color, so you can tell it's relatively newer. It's not an old strap. They turn brown when they get real old. At that point, you really want to check the condition of your straps. You also want to check the condition of your anchor points on the side here. You want to check and make sure that there's no cracks. Okay, you want to make sure there's no separation from this point. You can go ahead and check both of these on either side. You want to make sure that it's not separating. We do see some separation, or I have seen some separation towards the rear of the trailer. This weld really isn't meant for strapping anything down here. I definitely wouldn't do that. So these are technically your anchor points up here. This is something just to add some additional strength. You want to strap at these points here. Okay, I want to go ahead and check that. Your safety chains. What you're checking for on your safety chains that connect your truck to your trailer, you're checking for their overall condition. You're checking for the links here at the front to make sure that the pins aren't coming out. Checking to make sure that there's no cracking or separation at each one of the links. You can do that at a glance. And you also want to check to make sure that the clips here are these would be the clips, what I'm moving here. You want to make sure that those are present and working, okay? If they're not, then there's a chance that these safety chains could come disconnected from the truck during transport. Something to note here, you also want to make sure that these chains aren't dragging on the ground, okay? These chains are rather long, which is fine. What you can do if the chains are rather low is you can twist the chain and it'll take length out of the chain, okay? So it brings the chain up a little bit. If the chain seems distorted, go ahead and turn it back over. You definitely don't want any distortion coming from the chain. And this is properly and securely fashioned. You want to make a note here to cross your chains. You definitely don't want to have the chain on the left side of the trailer hooked up to the left side of the truck. You want to make sure that they are crossed, okay? That can very well be a highway violation. Okay. The next thing we're checking here, of course, you want to make sure that your license and registration is both current and in the vehicle at all times. We're going to go ahead and look at the front here. You might want to check with the state, but in the state of California, our license plates do have to be on the front of the vehicle. Of course, we will be hauling things on the back of the truck and they won't be visible to an officer. So we have our tags on the front. They are current. They match the registration. We made sure that we had it in the truck along with the insurance card. Okay. If you are hauling something down the highway that's too wide. In the state of California, we have to have signage and permits for anything that's over 10 feet wide. You want to make sure that you have all the correct signage, wide load on the load there. Also, you want to make sure you have a permit when required. Okay, we'll come back here to your emergency equipment. We went ahead and we pulled out the reflective triangles here. You also want to make sure that if you're in an area where it snows, that you have your tire chains, that they are present. We don't get snow here. We don't have tire chains here, okay? You want to make sure that there's a secured fire extinguisher in the truck, which is located in these trucks, passenger side of the vehicle behind the seat. You also want to make sure that there are fuses in the truck. And since we're here, we will make note of what style fuses. They are micro fuses, okay? They're not the big blade style fuses. They are the miniature fuses. I would recommend taking a look at the fuses that are present in your vehicle and buying a variety of fuses, okay? Going back to the fire extinguisher, we will make sure that it's present and it is secure. Located on the passenger side, the fire extinguisher is there behind the seat. Okay, and it is securely fastened. Okay, located right there. It's very important to make sure that you're both checking the truck out at the beginning of the day and also checking the truck out at the end of the day. Okay, essentially what you're doing is you're checking the truck back in. Okay, anything can happen on the road during transport, etc. Something may come dislodged, something may fray, may break on the highway. You want to check it back in at the end of the day. You want to record your mileage, okay? There's a spot here where you're going to record the odometer at the start of the day, at the end of the day, and the total miles driven, you're going to write it here. If there's anything notated on this checklist, or if you find anything during your inspection, it's completely okay, okay? To some of you out there, you may notice that I'm in Anaheim, okay? I'm actually out of Fresno. The reason I'm here in Anaheim is because during our last truck and trailer inspection, we did find an out-of-service condition, and our truck is currently getting serviced, and that's okay. That's what you want, that's what you're looking for, okay? If you find, and this goes out to whoever's driving the vehicle, if you find anything to be wrong with the truck, it's completely okay to notate it down, let your GM know, let your assistant manager, your production manager know.